Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da. Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da.
Welcome, 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 geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to an all-new edition of Geek to Me Radio. I say all new, this is our Justice League reunion. We're going to take the best of our clips from the previous Justice League features. We're going to put them all together in one Justice League reunion massive masterpiece. Stand by.
We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors, 4 Hogwarts houses, 1 ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
So I thought we'd kick this off with one of my very favorite moments. There's so many with the different members of the Justice League cast I've interviewed, but it was a true pleasure to sit down at Denver Comic Con at a round table, literally, with Suzanne Eisenberg, Wonder Woman, George Newbern, Superman, and Andrea Romano, who oversaw all the casting and direction for this incredible cartoon we've all come to love. And here is my conversation with George, Susan, and Andrea. Suzanne Eisenberg has been on the show twice before, and she still comes back for more. And we've also got Andrea Romano and George Newbern. So it's Wonder Woman, Superman, and the brains behind the Justice League. Would you say that's accurate, Andrea?
I don't know if it's the brains behind, but they're my dear friends and wonderfully talented actors.
So when it's a Justice League reunion like this, just watching the three of you interact right now, it's like you guys are just old friends. You go right into it. So it must have been a bond formed during the 3-year run of the show?
5 years.
5 years.
I think anytime you work on a show that it becomes this iconic show, which it's become, it is bonding. I mean, we were all in it together. And when we're reunited like we are now, even though we haven't seen each other in a long time, we fall back into it, you know, and it's just lovely. It really is. And tomorrow we'll have the big reunion.
Yes. Yeah, that's in the main hall, I think, around 12, I think?
1:30.
1:30, okay.
And we're going to do a table read. We're going to do an actual read of a show.
Nice, very cool. So who's going to fill in for Carl? Because I'm available if... you're... Okay, you got it. Andrea's the pro. We'll let her do it. So I know we were talking about you guys all had dinner together last night. George, who is the Joker of the group? No pun intended.
First of all, Susan was so drunk. It was embarrassing. And by the way, I think she's been drinking too much today. Anyway, who is the Joker of the evening? I don't know.
Maybe you.
Maybe me.
Maybe.
I'd had maybe a tequila and a half, and maybe I was a little loud. But it was all good, clean fun. It was good, clean fun.
The biggest jokester of the group wasn't there, and that is Michael Rosenbaum.
Oh, wasn't right, yeah.
Because Rosenbaum came in late, and honestly, the minute he walks in the room, the yucks start to happen. Whether you want them to or not, the yucks begin.
He's now a stand-up. Comedian.
That's right. And in Pastor, we've seen him on that too. It's fantastic.
Great show.
Is it still on?
I
know, okay.
But we loved every episode that he made. Really good show.
So when it comes to casting people, obviously your career is just outstanding. I can't believe all the talent you've worked with. But especially when you've got a group like this that comes together, how did you find the perfect mix? Because these are iconic 7 characters. What was your kind of goal in mind when you went in with the casting?
Well, it was daunting because everybody has an idea in their head as to what they hear these characters sound like when they speak. They've been reading the comic books for years. People have been, and they assume what the voice is in their heads. And what I wanted to do was create an ensemble that became a family. And that's exactly what happened. And it happened to us professionally, and it happened to us personally. We are like a family who actually chooses to be together as opposed to one that's forced to be together. And when we do see each other after years of not seeing each other, we fall right back into the same wonderful patterns of respect and appreciation for what each other does. And everybody's able to go back into the voices and the characters so easily and well that it does encourage me that I did make the right choices some 12, 15, 20 years ago, whenever we started. But the casting procedure was very hard because it was a lot of characters.
Yeah.
A lot of actors wanted to be a part of it. And in a way, it's easy because when you sell the show to agents saying, I'm auditioning for the character of Wonder Woman. She's this character. You don't have to tell them who it is. They know who Wonder Woman is. They know who Superman is. They know who Batman is. So you don't have to pitch them the show as in it's a brand new whatever it is. But so many actors want to be a part of it because their kids want them to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And so that's a real pleasure too.
And I know Nathan Fillion's running around here. He was Vigilante, not as well known of a character. So was he one of the people who approached you and wanted to be in it? Did you think he's the right guy? Was it an audition process?
It was. We were familiar with his on-camera work, and often that happens where you see an actor who you watch his work and you go, I want to work with that actor. I'm going to look for a character that's right for them. And when we found Vigilante, we had him do it. And then in later years, he became Green Lantern for me on several different projects. Yeah.
And talking about the voices in your head, Susan and I have talked before. When I read Wonder Woman comics, it's always Susan's voice in my head. George, when you took on Superman, you had, I guess, not a harder job than Susan, because Susan had Linda Carter, and there was the woman, Shannon Farnsworth. Yeah, quite that's what, who did Wonder Woman in the animated series. You had so many Supermen to choose from. How did you find that voice?
Well, they actually had to pitch my voice down in the first season because I just had gone through puberty and I was working on trying to get my it was a little intimidating, to be honest with you. I was like, I would do a take. I was like, is that okay? I looked at Bruce and Andrea in the booth and they were like going, yeah, and then they would talk. And then they were saying, pitch it down. No, but as I got older, it just sort of settled into my voice and became much easier to do. So initially it was daunting, is the word.
You get older and you also get more comfortable with the process. I mean, that really helps. The time helps. I mean, I always say that first year, I was very green to being a series regular, but it worked because Diana was also leaving Themyscira. She was vulnerable. So that worked with the voice. But just as years went on, you just do get more comfortable with the character and the ownership and just feeling like, okay, I've got this, as Diana would say.
And I've never pitched this question to Susan before, so I'm going to go around the table if you don't mind. Excluding those of you who are here, who is your favorite person to work with during the show?
Go to Andrea. Let me think about it.
Wow. My favorite person to work with in the show, other than who's here.
Other than who's here, obviously.
Because Carl Lumley isn't here, I have to speak about him. Because what a wonderful voice, what a wonderful actor, and what a human being. Beautiful, beautiful man. And we were very lucky to have him on the series. I'm sorry that he couldn't be here. He did make New York a couple of years ago when we had a previous reunion. Maybe if we do a San Francisco event, he would come to that because that's where he lives. But what a dream actor to have. That's my choice.
Susan?
She stole mine.
Carl, I think for all of us, Carl was so special. I mean, the relationship we had with all the characters. So with Jean and Wonder Woman, we had a very special bond. And then the actor, Carl Lumley, is such a lovely guy. So that was just, special to work with him. And then I think for me it was Ed Asner because I grew up on Mary Tyler Moore.
Yeah.
And then there I was doing scenes with Ed Asner and pinching, literally. There wasn't a time I drove into that Warner Brothers lot, there still isn't, where I don't feel like I'm the luckiest person that I got this job in 2001.
Super cool. I thought it was neat working with Mark Hamill.
I'm not sure who that is.
Yeah. I didn't know him at all, and we worked a bunch. I don't know, did a bunch of episodes. And what was so weird is his speaking voice was not at all like what I thought is, from Star Wars or whatever. He just was much more cultured and New York-y kind of guy. I was like, whoa, what is this? This is really neat. So, Mark Hamill.
So I know there are no plans as of right now for a reunion. A lot of fans would love to see at least maybe a one-shot movie or anything we can kind of hope for.
If the fans can get out there and get the word out there, use your social media, fans, please tell Warner Brothers you want a reunion. All of us would be delighted to be a part of it. We would love to do it. If everybody's still available, we can still make it happen.
So Susan and George are both on board for that as well, yeah?
That would be a big yes.
As long as there are no green M&Ms in my trailer, I'm in.
All right, well, there you go. So, yeah, it's such an amazing thing to see you guys all together, and the big panel is tomorrow. Any nerves on anyone's part?
You know what? No. You know what I feel? I'm excited. Andrea is going to be directing us in a table read from the original scripts, from the original show. I mean, that makes me so thrilled that we're going to get together and we're going to be on this stage together, and she's going to be directing us like she did on the show.
So it'd be kind of hard to have the nerves since you know you're in such familiar company, I guess.
Well, I always had nerves even though it was familiar company because it's an intimidating group. I mean, and mostly everyone had more experience than I think I did, and this woman worked with everybody, you know, this woman being Andrea Romano I'm pointing to, you know, everyone under the sun. But it's like, it's excitement and just a lot of energy, and we're thrilled.
And probably there's more nerves because George is already on decaf, he said. He's not doing regular, so the nerves are okay?
I'm coming down off the decaf. Feel great. No nerves. Excited.
Andrea?
I'm so excited to do it. I'm not nervous at all because I have such confidence in these actors, and they're all enthusiastic about doing it, so it's just going to be nothing but fun.
Andrea Romano, Suzanne Eisenberg, George Newbern, thank you so much for being on air.
Thank you.
What a fantastic time. If you got to go to Denver Comic-Con when that happened with that Justice League reunion, you know what I mean. It was fantastic. Hopefully they'll do another Justice League reunion soon at another convention, but I would love to see one, obviously. WB, if you're listening, let's get the original 7 back together. Andrea will direct, and it'll be fabulous. The fans will love it. Be perfect for the new DC streaming service. We're going to take our first break. We'll come right back talking with Batman himself, Kevin Conroy, so stand by.
Hi, this is Andrea Romano. I happen to be the voice director for many animated series, including the Justice League. You are listening on Geek to Me Radio.
Welcome back. This segment and this show really brought to you by the city of St. Charles. Go to discoverstcharles.com. That's their website. Check out all the fun things there are to see and do. If you're down in that area right now, hopefully you're partaking in Legends and Lanterns, their awesome Halloween festival. This is the second and last weekend, so if you're listening right now, get down to Historic St. Charles, interact with Lizzie Borden, Baron Samdi, Abigail Williams, all these cool characters from history. Check out the Angry Villagers. They'll sing a cool song or two for you. There's the Pumpkin Glow going on this weekend, a fantastic time. Always to be had, not just at Halloween, but any time you are in St. Charles. That website again, discoverstcharles.com. Plan your trip. Christmas traditions right around the corner. You can check out all the cool things there are to see and do. If you're from out of town, find a place to stay in St. Charles. Lots of charming bed and breakfasts, great places to eat. Always something cool going on. That's discoverstcharles.com. Very proud to have them as the premier sponsor for our show since the inception of Geek to Me Radio. Thank you very much to them. That voice you heard bringing us back from break was Andrea Romano. She was the voice director not only for Justice League, but she voice directed Kevin Conroy and basically cast, along with Bruce Timm, Batman, the animated series, celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. And we had the chance to catch up with the Dark Knight himself. We are here talking with Batman himself, Kevin Conroy. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm great. So I know I've read in interviews before you were not at all familiar with Batman and the comics before you took on the role. So what were the first, what did you start reading to get into the mindset, the character?
Well, you know, it was really a situation of just an actor in an audition and the director telling him what the background of the character was. Bruce Timm explained to me the source of his tragedy in his childhood, his parents being killed. He lives his life to avenge their deaths. He turns that tragedy to be a force of good. So it was really an acting exercise for me that day. And I had a lot of background in the theater. I went to Juilliard. I did a lot of off-Broadway, Broadway, a lot of theater work. And I specifically did a lot of classics, Shakespeare and Greek dramas. And the way he was describing the character, I said, you're describing the classic tragic characters. You're describing Orestes or Hamlet, you know. And he said, oh, well, no one said that in an audition before. So I said, well, let me just use my imagination. And I just, went to this very dark, painful place and came up with this sound. So it was a good example of how life is never what you plan on it being, Yeah. Life is what happens while you're busy making other plans,
right,
as John Lennon said. but everything I worked on up to then led to it. You know, all the theater work I'd done, all the improvisational work I'd done, you know, to feel that loose in an audition, to just go with ideas. When people come and ask me about getting into the business, I always say, voice acting isn't making funny voices. Mm-hmm. It's acting, and only being able to use your voice to tell the story. So it's acting. So if you want to get into voice acting, study to be an actor, get into an acting company, you know, become an actor. And you create the character just with your voice. But you can't make it so embellished that it becomes cartoony. So it's a funny line you walk. But I had to come up to speed on Batman completely. My only background on it had been the Adam West series. And when Bruce Timm heard that, he said, no, go in and, you know, erase that memory. Everyone loves Adam West. But that was a whole different tangent.
Definitely was, yeah. And Lauren said the same thing, that he was only familiar with Robin from Burt Ward's portrayal. And you got the chance to work with Adam West in the episode where he came back as the Grey Ghost. Yeah. So that must have been a lot of fun having two Batmans on the same stage.
He is the most gracious gentleman. He's just he's from another school of actors, you know, like Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., who was Alfred. They're just an older school of real gentlemanly actors who were he was so gracious. I was a little nervous meeting him because, you know, you kind of feel like you're stepping on someone else's legacy, you know. And he said, oh, God, no, have fun with it. I had a blast with it when I was doing it. It's your turn now. Go and have fun with it. So, yeah, I loved working with him. And
we've had Suzanne Eisenberg on our show before, who did Wonder Woman, and we just had Phil Lamarr last week doing that Justice League with that ensemble. They said it was some of the most fun that you guys ever had, and to have that whole cast together. What was that like, going from doing the animated series into Justice League?
Well, working with Suzanne Eisenberg is like sort of an orgasm every time you do, because she gets at the sexiest voice imaginable. So it was a great group. Phil Lamarr is such a good guy. Everyone in that show was great. Andrea Romano brings really generous actors together. She likes to get people who are givers in the room because she knows everyone feeds each other in that atmosphere. So they were wonderful. In fact, word got out with the original Batman animated series. Word got out in Hollywood how much fun these bookings were, so that everyone wanted to come in. So the guests were incredible on that show.
Yeah, you had a lot of
wonderful guests, and Andrea said she had no trouble booking anyone she wanted.
That's what Susan said. Everyone wanted to work with Andrea. So and if I had one last question, since everyone says who's your Batman, a lot of people, they have all these live action actors. A lot of people say Kevin Conroy is their Batman. How does that feel to be, doing the animated series, but up there with the likes of Michael Keaton and Adam West, and in that same company?
Well, I have an advantage, to be honest, because Batman is an animated character. Sure. He was a cartoon character, and he's most alive in the animated world. When you try to make him live action, it's just a little, it's harder to do. So when I'm the voice of the cartoon, I have a leg up on the live action guys, because the cartoon is the animated world is the world where Batman lives. Yeah. It's where he exists. So I can really go with people's imaginations, and when you hear a voice that's associated with a cartoon, you go to a very intimate place in your imagination, and it gets embedded. So people grew up hearing that voice with that character in their childhood imaginations. So I, brainwashed them at a very early age.
It's all about getting them young.
It was effective, right, yeah, exactly.
Right. Kevin Conroy was also generous enough to be our guest at the Planet Comic Con when we hosted our show as a panel, and he gave this charming story about Andrea Romano.
Actually, with Andrea, there's a funny story, because I had to sort of learn a lot about how to do animated voices, because it was my first job. Yeah. And doing in Batman, no one ever dies. Batman doesn't kill. So there's always, even if a character falls off a 20-story building, there's what's called the stay alive groan when he hits the ground. So it'll be like, ah! He always knows it's alive. So the first time I did it, I went, ah! They said, okay, stay alive groan. Andrea. And the booth just lost it.
That's probably her ringtone for when you call. It's Andrea.
So then it got to be a thing. So every time I had to say live grown, Andrea would say, and then Batman says, Andrea. So at the end of the year, she had a Christmas reel where she put them all together.
That's great.
We're going to take our next break. We'll come right back talking with the big three, Phil Lamarr, Michael Rosenbaum, and Maria Canals-Barrera, Green Lantern, Flash, and Hawkgirl. So stand by.
Great Hera, may the force be with you. This is Suzanne Eisenberg, voiceover actress, and you are listening to Geek to Me Radio.
And there we have our return liner from none other than a friend of Phil Lamarr, Suzanne Eisenberg, who is still with us, actually. She's still in the world, so see, Phil, it's not all bad.
Exactly.
We had Susan on the show back in November, and she spoke highly of you. In the entire cast. That the Justice League series was one of those. There'd really been nothing like it since the original Challenge of the Super Friends back in the 80s. To have the Justice League as that, and we also got John Stewart Green Lantern, who I will say is my favorite Green Lantern.
Well, thank you, son. I appreciate that.
So when you're formulating the voices for these characters, what is the process you use? Obviously, Samurai Jack sounds very different from John Stewart, sounds very different from Randy Robertson in Spectacular Spider-Man. What kind of process do you have to find the voice for each character?
Actually, for me, the process changes with every show. It depends on what the creator gives to you. You know, do they have a drawing? Do they have a script? Is it a show that's already on? That's always helpful because then you can watch it and get a feel for what the tone of the show is. Mm-hmm. Obviously, with Justice League, we didn't have that. Although it's really funny because what I did was I looked at the drawings, and Bruce Timm has a very specific style.
Yes.
All the men have those gigantic chests, and it just looked to me like this was a guy. You got that great big chest, you're gonna have a big deep voice.
Sure.
Although I'm pretty sure that my choice was influenced by the fact that the person who auditioned ahead of me was my friend Dennis Haysbert, who's an amazing actor. He was the president on 24.
Oh, yes.
Just, thousands of things. And basically, Dennis is John Stewart. Physically, he's 6'3",
right?
Buff. I'm like, that's the guy. And of course, and Dennis has that, you're in good hands with Allstate.
Right.
He has that voice, too. So when I went in, I couldn't get Dennis as John Stewart out of my head. So I think I just wound up doing my version of Dennis Haysbert's voice.
So you do a better Dennis Haysbert than he does. That's got to be an ego blow for him, I would think.
Well, the funny thing was he did come back on and do the show later as a different Green Lantern. So
okay.
It all evened out.
Good. I like it when karma takes care of everything. That's nice. That's good. The brave and the bold. You can't talk to Green Lantern and not talk to Flash. So here is a little bit of my interview with Michael Rosenbaum. So where to begin? I guess I saw you in Denver at the Denver Comic-Con, which was so much fun seeing everybody. We only missed Carl Lumley, but the rest of your Justice League compatriots were there. And that's the first time you guys have been together since New York Comic-Con about 3 years ago, correct?
Yeah, and I wasn't even in New York
that's right.
at the New York Comic-Con, but this was the first time we all. It's funny. I'm looking at all my Justice League porcelain or these little figurines I have in my office. The fitting your show, Geek to Me Radio. It's very fitting because if you look at my office right now, there's all these action figures of the Justice League. There's me with the Flash. I didn't autograph it, but I had the rest of the cast autograph their characters and a lot of Star Wars and things. I'm a bit of a child, but the New York Comic Con I didn't get to go, so this one was really special, and I had no idea what would we would be doing. And they said we're going to be doing a live reading, all of us, the original cast, in front of a couple of thousand people. And I go, what? So I grabbed the script and we just kind of looked it over real quick and then read it, and it was just a packed house, and I couldn't believe. I just didn't realize, Justice League Unlimited. I mean, it's been years since we were recording, and you never, when you're doing it, you never know if people are going to really respond or how much they're going to like it, and the response was just overwhelming. I couldn't believe. I tweeted a picture, and of the crowd behind us, and I just saw how their eyes light up and how excited they were, and it made me feel really good that we were doing something right. And having Andrea Romano direct it, she's been our director for years, and she's just amazing. And so it was just a real treat to work with, Kevin Conroy again, and Michael, how are you? And I just was in Ireland with him at another Comic-Con.
Yeah, Dublin, that's right.
What's fun is going to these Comic-Cons and, like, not only talking to the fans and hanging out and signing autographs and talking, but it's meeting other, like, people that you actually were fans of growing up, or like you see someone, you're like, oh my God, that's the Game of Thrones, that's the Mountain. I'm hanging out with the Mountain. Holy shiz. So I geek out and I try to act cool, but the geek always comes out.
It sounds like you and I must have similar office setups, because my wife is always like, is there a child in the house? Is that why there's all these toys and everything in your office? I'm like, no, it's my stuff. But
I always make the excuse, like, people come over and I'm like, it's just my office that has all the stuff. The rest of the house is kind of mature, right?
Right.
So it's all right.
We all have to have
our
our place.
Don't let that inner child escape you, James.
No,
Keep
exactly.
the inner child, brother.
Exactly right. That's my motto, believe me. From Green Lantern into Flash, and of course, we have to give the ladies their due. Hawkgirl, Maria Canals-Barrera. Here's what she had to say about voicing this iconic character. And as we mentioned, the voice roles, obviously, iconically, the Justice League, you voiced Hawkgirl for the run of that series, worked with such an amazing amount of talent. We've had Suzanne Eisenberg on the show several times. We have had Kevin Conroy a few times. And we had a great chance to speak with Andrea Romano, who oversaw everything. Were there any, times when you kind of had to pinch yourself in a show like that, working with the talent that was in the booth with you at times? What was that like for you as an actor?
Oh, yes, I pinched myself all the time. It was a tremendous blessing. I mean, it came at the perfect time. I had both my pregnancies during the years I recorded the Justice League, which is great. 9 months pregnant, and doesn't matter. I don't have to worry about hiding pregnancy for an on-camera audition. No. The people were just, I still love them. When we do the reunion Comic-Cons, we have the best time. Susan is a doll, George, Phil, Kevin, Carl. They're just, the Flash, Michael, so funny. I just love them to pieces. And Andrea, what a special human being. She's so talented, and she's also so warm and real and accessible to actors, because she was an actress too. She really knows how to talk to us. She knows how to direct us. She cares about what she does. Oh, it was a tremendous blessing in every single way. The people, the writing, Bruce Timm. It was just, it doesn't surprise me that people still love our show so much. It's one of those wonderful projects that I got to be a part of that will endure for so long, because it was so well done, so well made, so well written. So I pinch myself all the time. And I get stopped still based on my voice. I'm like, wow, you recognize my voice? Like the diehard fans, they're like, you like the guy at a store, the guy helping me at the store, he's like, you sound so familiar. You're Hawkgirl, aren't you? And I'm like, what? You recognize my voice? That's just such an amazing thing. I love to have been part of that.
And is that they recognize your voice when you're lifting the grocery bags? Do you still get that Hawkgirl ha when you pick up the bags? Is that why they recognize you so easily?
Not from my battle cries. From my, hey, does this come in a different color?
There we go, rounding out the Justice League. Phil Lamarr, Michael Rosenbaum, and Maria Canals-Barrera. I love talking to voiceover actors. Justice League holds such a special place in my heart, and I'm hoping you're enjoying this Justice League reunion show so far. We're going to come right back talking a little bit with Suzanne Eisenberg from the very first time she ever came on the show. Right after this, stand by.
Hi, this is George Newbern, the voice of Superman. You are listening to Geek to Me Radio.
We are back. This segment brought to you by Marcus Theaters. MarcusTheaters.com is the website. One stop. Do your clicking right there. Buy your tickets. See the current movies. Check out what you want to do. Look at the menus for the various all sorts of delicacies you can buy while you're at the theater. Theaters are I used to go to the theater, and you're lucky you get snow caps or popcorn. You can get full-blown meals now at these Marcus Theaters. It's amazing. And you sit back in those big, comfy seats. It's like you're in your living room. Some of the seats have the heated little button on the side. You press the button, they heat up, which will be great. It's going to be getting colder soon. What better way to beat the cold than head out to your Marcus Theater, snuggle up in one of those big, comfy, reclining chairs with the heated seats, watch your favorite movies on the big screen. Great selection of movies coming out for the rest of this year. We still have Aquaman coming up, which will be amazing. The more I see these previews for it, the more I cannot wait to see it. And I'm going to see it in a Marcus Theaters. Why would you go anywhere else? 11 different states in which you can see it. Go to the website. Once again, MarcusTheaters.com. Check out the one closest to you. Get your tickets right there. Head out. Pick them up at the box office. Go in. See your movie. Done. Enjoy. Never, ever see a movie when you can't see it in first class. Do it at a Marcus Theaters. MarcusTheaters.com is that website. Be sure to check out Aquaman. Halloween's out right now. Plenty of great movies. See them all at Marcus Theaters. Suzanne Eisenberg has probably been one of the biggest cheerleaders for my show. She's been phenomenal. I think we've had her on as I was going through editing the content for this show 7 times already. She has been wonderful. She has been instrumental in helping me get that roundtable we heard in the first segment with George and Andrea. She was petitioned. She helped me get Kevin Conroy to be on my panel for the live show we did at Planet Comic-Con earlier this year. She's been on the show several times. Always just such a treat to talk to her. So I thought I'd go back to our very first time having her on air.
And I know I've had an interview and a conversation with Meredith Finch, who wrote Wonder Woman, and her husband David Finch did the art at the time. And she, it's always a thrill for anybody, I think, whether they are writing for the character, drawing the character, or in your case, performing as the character. She's one of the big 3. Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman are known as the DC Trinity. And as you mentioned earlier, she is getting her due this year.
And, I think that when people talk about the honor of it, the privilege of it, which I often do, it's not overstating it, because you recognize the history, you recognize the popularity, and you feel like you've been given something that you know that you must appreciate it and you must feel humbled by, because it is just so extraordinary to be given this job, that I was given this job in 2000. And one of the great benefits of voicing her was that this year I got to meet Christy Marston, whose grandfather, William Moulton Marston, created Wonder Woman.
Yes. Wow.
And she was one of the women on my panel. I invited Christy to come to Los Angeles to be on the Wonder Woman 75 panel, and she did. And so we got to meet each other and spend time together, and I heard wonderful stories about her grandfather and, more importantly, her grandmother, who really, really inspired the Wonder Woman character. And it was just amazing to spend the time with this woman who grew up, and right now she's actually in Rhode Island. She's doing the Rhode Island Comic-Con this weekend, and her booth is just from side to side. It's just covered in Wonder Woman, and it's fantastic. So yeah, that was really terrific, and also meeting Shannon Farnan, who I met in Denver last year. We did a panel together, and Shannon voiced Wonder Woman in Super Friends.
Yes.
And so, just that's the kind of stuff that makes me giddy, because we all share a piece of this history, and this year allows us to celebrate it together. And it's I'm pinching myself.
I can imagine. And that's one of the shows that I grew up watching. I remember specifically in the early 80s, it was called Super Friends Galactic Guardians. And it had Firestorm and Cyborg and everyone like that. And Darkseid was the big bad for that particular series. And it was based on the Kenner Superpowers toy line. And yeah, Wonder Woman, obviously, again, she was front and center there with the Justice League. And it's about time that she's getting her due with all the 75 years. And what a fantastic, I can only imagine the stories that his granddaughter must have shared with you about creating Wonder Woman and writing her and all that from all that time period.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't really grow up with her grandfather because he passed early on, but she grew up with her. Her grandmother lived to be 100.
Wow.
And she knew her grandmother very, very well, spent so much time with her. And her father Christie's father created the Wonder Woman Museum. And so Christie maintains that. And again, she's in Connecticut. The museum, I believe, is in New York. But you should have her on your show because there's such incredible history there, and she lived it. So, and a lot of people don't know her and don't know the name. And so when all these things were going on, these panels and all these celebratory things were going on, my first thought was, well, let me ask her if she'll come, because how can you throw a party for Wonder Woman and not invite the family?
Exactly. That's very true.
And when she said yes, I mean, first I fell off my chair, and then and then I started just, I mean, really, I can't tell you what an honor it was to meet her. And we had such fun the entire weekend.
I can only imagine. Yeah, that just the fact that we are celebrating, because back even again, when I was a kid, if you told someone, oh, I collect comic books, you're kind of looked on like, meh. Now it's almost, you don't collect comic books? You don't, because it's so mainstream now. And I would just like to point out, I was doing it before it was cool, people. I just want to point that out. But it's so
true. It's so true. It was so peripheral. It was so on the on the outskirts, and now you're right, absolutely. And these features, I mean, every other week there's a new feature film, and it's exciting. I mean, again, I'm not like you. I didn't grow up reading the comic books. I mean, once in a while, like an Archie or something like that, but I didn't really grow up as a fan. So I have had quite the education in the last 15, 16 years because, I've had to, it's, on-the-job training.
Right. And that's actually was going to be one of the questions I usually ask celebrities who are portraying certain roles is, were you a fan of the genre beforehand? So how quick, I mean, you must have been familiar with Wonder Woman. Everyone is. But how much research and what kind of research did you do to prepare for the role?
Well, I did. I was very familiar with her because of Linda Carter,
sure.
Because I'm of the age that I grew up with Linda Carter's version of Wonder Woman, and that was my sense of her. Mm-hmm. But the truth is that when I went into to audition for Bruce Timm and Andrea Romano, they had a very clear idea of what they wanted her to sound like and what they wanted her to be like. And so I think as actors, we're really responding to somebody else's vision, and we're helping them, see that vision through. And so there was Bruce Timm in every session, and there was Andrea Romano directing me in every session of the Justice League, and giving me the guidelines and directing me as to how they wanted this particular Diana to sound like and to be like. So as much as, as an actress, yes, you can do all the research in the world. And I certainly did do some research and read certain things and wanted to know more about the character and her origins. I mean, I had to say names like Hippolyta and Themyscira. You don't want to sound like you want to know what you're talking about.
Sure, exactly.
So, right. So, I did some research, but ultimately I relied on Bruce and Andrea to really guide me through it. And then, as it became clearer to me who she was, and I became more connected to the character and more confident in voicing her, because it was quite intimidating in the beginning. Mm-hmm. Then I found my own voice. I found my voice, through her, and that really was a turning point for me.
I can imagine. That's got to be just such an incredible experience.
She is Wonder Woman, folks. Suzanne Eisenberg, such a phenomenal person. If you ever get the chance to see her live at a convention, be sure you do it. She is so grateful to the fans, just such a humble person and a great, truly great and wonderful, I will say, human being. We're going to take our final break. We're going to come right back, wrapping things up, talking all about that JL reunion hashtag going around on Twitter and telling you what you can do to help get the Justice League back together. Stand by.
Hi, everybody. This is Maria Canals-Barrera. I voiced Hawkgirl on the Justice League, and you're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
We are back for our final segment of this Justice League reunion show. We had a show with Andrea Romano as a special guest to surprise Suzanne Eisenberg for the 16th anniversary of the Justice League cartoon debuting on Cartoon Network. And Andrea dropped a bombshell on us during that show.
I would certainly hope that they would be consulting the two of you before they go forward with these movies. That would be the smart thing to do, I would think.
It would make me really happy to do a big, fat Justice League animated feature. It would make me, I would come out of retirement to do that.
Oh, you heard it here first.
Oh, gosh. Yes, God, I just got chills. I would do that. That would be worth it. That would absolutely be worth it.
From what I've heard from the other voice actors, Andrea, they would all jump at the chance to do it again, so...
Not even a question. So Warner Brothers and DC just have to have a long conversation and figure out how to make it happen, because we're all available to do it, and we'd all be on board. So.
After the show, I'll give Jeff Johns a call, and we'll put a word in for you.
Thanks so much for having me on the show. Very kind of you to have me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for taking time out of your Sunday, and I'm hoping it was a surprise for Susan.
It was truly it was. I'm thrilled.
And we had Phil on with his Goblins animated co-star Matt King talking about their project there. But, of course, we talked about Justice League. As we were off air, my executive producer, Joey, who puts all these shows together, thank you very much to Joey V for doing all this behind-the-scenes work. I wouldn't be where I am without him. We kept some of the outro that we were talking about that we didn't air. But Phil mentioned that maybe I was the impetus for this whole hashtag JL reunion on Twitter.
Wait, did you have Bex Taylor-Klaus on your show?
We did, yeah. She actually joined us twice, right before the second season of Voltron, and then she came on right again before the third season dropped.
Oh, my gosh, she's amazing. She's such a lovely, lovely gal.
Yeah, she's fantastic. Super nice. And she had great things. It's cool because we had Andrea, you probably know, Phil, we had Andrea Romano on the show a couple times now. And she just gushes about all of you. She's talked with such fondness about you and Susan, and she mentioned working with, because she was voice directing Voltron when we had her on the first time, when she was talking about working with Stephen Yoon and Bex Taylor-Klaus. And we,
absolutely.
She said here on the show, we had her on for the 16th anniversary of Justice League Animated a couple weeks ago, and she told us, because Susan and I were saying, it would be great if WB got all 7 of you guys together, and Andrea said, if that happens, I'll come out of retirement to direct it.
All right. Oh, no, you started this landslide that's been happening online. My entire Twitter feed since Thanksgiving has been filled with Justice League stuff because of you, James.
Well, good. I hope. I don't even want part of the cut. I just want a private screening with you guys. That'd all I'd ask for.
Keep that hashtag going, folks. Hashtag JL Reunion. Tweet it to @WB Entertainment. Let's get this group back together again, because who wouldn't want to see the Big Seven with Andrea Romano at the helm? Until next week, my friends.
When you make Game of Thrones references, that's a show. This is Geek to Me Radio. That's a show. This is Geek to Me Radio.
Thank you, Justice League Watchtower. Good night.